Hello, everyone. Welcome to Prowess Goes Live. So excited to have all of you. Y'all, I say this every week, but this one, I really mean it. Y'all are in for a treat. One of the top things that all of you ask is, Ashley, I have so much imposter syndrome and I am my own problem. And so I can't overcome my problem because, again, the problem is me. So I am thrilled for today's guest. But as always, let's get the party started. Put into chat. The question is, what is a talent that you have that you're weirdly good at? Like you tried it once, but you're weirdly good. Put into chat, what is something that you are weirdly good at? Humming and keeping beat at the same time with my mouth. Oh my God, so good, so good. Okay, I saw. So it's funny that someone brought up golf because, yes, this is absolutely something that my sister randomly really good at. Poker is one that my husband is randomly really good at. Like it's all of these things. Mine is Connect Four, randomly really good at. Axe throwing, also good. Memorizing lyrics of songs and remembering exactly what I wore to specific events. That, my friend, is good. That is good. Awesome, 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 awesome. I'm making sure that we are taking things apart, not so great at putting them back together. Amy, also awesome. Made my job as an aircraft mechanic kind of scary. Aircraft mechanic. I would love to talk to you about all of this Boeing nonsense. Amazing. All right. Heads up here, we're not going live on Instagram. Leah is gone today, and she is helping her son get his driver's permit. And therefore, you all know you were left for me to do all of the tech, and therefore I couldn't figure out how to go live on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube all at the same time. So here we are. All right, y'all. Quick overview. Who am I? I'm Ashley Connell, CEO and founder of Prowess Project. What does Prowess Project do? We help women who are sick of the 9 to 5, want to find that balance of caretaking and hobbies and passion for life and work and do it all that works for them. We help all of those women train to be online business managers, and then we match them up with their ideal visionaries. What I love about what we do at Prowess Project is both the OBM and the CEOs who we match the OBMs with, they both come to me and they're like, Ashley, I am so lucky. Like, I feel like the lucky one. How did I find such a dream OBM, or how did I find such a dream visionary? And so quick shout out to all of you. Thank you for being here with us. It is an absolute pleasure. So why imposter syndrome? Before we got started today, I took a step back and I was like, why do our audience of OBMs have imposter syndrome? And I thought about all of the times that I've talked to all of you. And this is what I heard over and over again. And give me a thumbs up in the chat if you have, if this is you. Number one, you're changing industries to become an online business manager. You've never done this before. You don't know what you're doing. You are coming from corporate and you're like, corporate? And then now I am running my own business. You have never pitched yourself to a client before. It's always, if you have done any sort of sales or marketing, it's always been for a different product or a different service. It's never been for you. And you have never worked independently, meaning you didn't have a team to bounce ideas off and all of those different things. Well, those are four very specific things that make sense and why you would all feel imposter syndrome. It is completely natural. It is completely reasonable. And that's why I'm thrilled about our guest today, Miss Jen Coken. She is an imposter syndrome expert. Not only that, she is a coach, she is a keynote speaker, and drumroll please, a comedian. So we met through a networking group, and I saw her give a comedy act, and y'all, she had me in tears. It was so fantastic. And then randomly, I was talking to one of her clients right before this call, and she was like, Ashley, listening to Jen talk about imposter syndrome is amazing. By the end of this talk, she will have this entire audience eating off the palm of her hand. And if that isn't the best intro, I don't know what is. Let me bring up the amazing Jen Coken. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Who said that? I want to know. I want to go or whatever.
Danielle, she's lovely. So Jen, welcome. Tell us, how did you get to where you are?
Ooh, okay. So short, long freaking story short. So I was in corporate for a long time. I worked in politics, I worked in corporate, I worked for nonprofits, and I chose in 2016 to go into business for myself. My first book came out. I was laid off from my fourth job because they were restructuring. It had nothing to do with performance, any of it. I was like, okay, there must be something bigger. So when I chose to go into coaching, one of the things that happened around, that was 2016. I threw a lot of spaghetti at the wall. You know what it is when you first start. You're like, I don't know, try that. I don't know, try that. And then you have all the bro marketers out there trying to tell you the right thing to do, and all the really, really pushy salespeople who were training people to tell people, you better give me your deposit right now or the price is going to double. I mean, it just made me puke in my mouth so much. And I was trying to figure it all out. Around 2019, I got a big corporate gig with a tech company, not going to say who, because the culture was so toxic. But because I was swimming in that water, I didn't realize it. And imposter syndrome reared, if I wasn't on the road training and coaching, I was under my covers crying, honestly. Like, I wouldn't get out of bed. I was doing the best I could, but I was so deep into the questioning and doubting myself. And I started thinking about and researching imposter syndrome, and eventually got to a point where I realized, holy moly, number one, I didn't realize it was a toxic culture and I got sucked in. But number two, and I say this to all of my clients, and it was great what you said at the beginning, Ashley, when you asked about those, I think it was 4 different types.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have imposter syndrome, you are not playing a big enough game.
Exactly.
Yes. Because why do people have imposter syndrome? Because we're human and we have brains, and we're done. We can log off now. That is why. We have an amygdala. We're having an amygdala hijack. We can get into all that. But that became, when I got free of that by identifying what I call my defining moment, I said to myself, I've got to let every other woman I know, dudes, I coach dudes too, but as women, because of societal pressures and what's expected of us and all those things, we get it 10 times over than anybody else. Although men don't talk about it. The truth is, a couple of years ago, the National Science Foundation did a survey of workers. It was either right before, I think it was right after the pandemic. And 70% of them said they had imposter syndrome. And I think it's because of all the change and working from home. And you can't, it's okay on Zoom, but you can't really read people's body language and have those conversations you want to have. So everybody has it. And if you don't have it, guess what? You're probably on the couch eating bonbons and watching Palm Royale, which is my new obsession. Just saying.
Heard it here first, folks. Heard it here first. If you do not have imposter syndrome, you are not playing big enough, point blank. Yes. Okay, so I am dying to know. You said amygdala, and I'm like, okay, we're going to get into the science. We're going to get super nerdy. I cannot wait. Tell us the neuroscience behind imposter syndrome.
Okay, so your amygdala, and I'm a big nerd, total nerd in high school. Nerds rule. We totally rule. So amygdala is your reptilian part of your brain, right? The part that governs fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And the brain's job is to keep the thing it's a brain of alive. That's the job of the amygdala. That's why, back in cave people days, it was physical threat. Now it's psychological threat. Why you and I and everyone in the chat are here is because we didn't get eaten and cave woman did, right? So it's for survival of the species. However, now it's not physical threats that are the issue, it's psychological, but the brain can't discern between like a gun being pointed at a gun, it's just a pointer finger, my finger pointing at you, and your boss calling and saying, come into my office, or you saying, oh, I'm going to go be an OBM now. The brain doesn't discern. The brain has 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day. Here's a good question for the chat. What percentage do you all listening in, watching this, think are negative of all those thoughts? The 50 to 60,000 thoughts, what percentage is negative? Just throw it in the chat.
Yeah, put it in the chat. I'm curious what everyone thinks.
I am too. What do you think? What percentage is negative? 95%?
95. I was going to say
Okay.
70.
You're going to say 70? Anybody else have an answer? 90. Okay. Anyone else? We got 70, we got 90, we got 95. See if any more are coming through. If not, I'll give you the answer for the win. Okay. The brain, 75%. All right. Well, so here's the deal. 80 to 85% of your thoughts are negative. 90 to 95% are repetitive. So we don't stand a chance. That's what I always say. Like why am I so hard on myself? Because you're human. That's why, because you have a brain. That's why, because the brain has a negativity bias. The way the brain takes in information, it takes it and compartmentalizes it. Is it like this or not like this? Is it like that or not like that? And if it's not like something the brain already has compartmentalized, then all of a sudden there's danger. The brain's wired to discern difference. So in a sense, I also say this, the brain is designed to be racist. The brain is designed in a sense to be homophobic, different than me. Ooh, scary. So it has to take a conscious act of rebellion to interrupt your amygdala so that the moment you interrupt it, the prefrontal cortex can start working, your cortisol levels go down, your logical reasoning goes up, and you can kind of take a step away from it and think to yourself, oh, that's not me. Those negative thoughts are what the brain is doing. And that's the secret beyond the defining moment. The secret is being able to witness or observe. It's called metacognition, being able to think about what you're thinking, observe and watch what you're thinking, feeling, and embodying, and the moods, etc. That's the key to all this nonsense. But it takes a lifetime to master it. I still haven't mastered it.
I was just about to ask you. I mean, I'm assuming a fraction of the fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the people are or even know about this, much less have even tried it once, much less have mastered it.
Absolutely. I years ago when I started down this road, I began to Google, how do you overcome imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
And 4 years ago, it was 2.3 million tips. Last year, it was 3.3 million tips. And coaches are going around telling people they can cure it. Bullshit. Only way you can cure it is if you're dead. You will cure imposter syndrome when you're dead. You don't want to procrastinate when you're dead. Don't have to worry about it. Don't want to people please anymore. You don't have to worry about it when you're dead. But seriously, you cannot cure it. What are you curing? It's part of who we are. It's designed to keep us safe. So yeah, a fraction of a fraction. And most coaches are delivering tools and tips. What I say, I used to live in Colorado and I would hike. And there was one particular hike I loved, but there was a giant boulder in the middle of the trail that you had to go over. Somehow you had to squeeze through a little pass. You could choose what you wanted to do, but that boulder staying stuck. So when people talk about overcoming imposter syndrome, or you're still keeping imposter syndrome stuck. In fact, the more you try to fix it, the more it stays stuck, because what you're doing is embedding neural pathways in your brain that got put together by an upset 6-year-old.
So then what do you do? Like if it's stuck and you're trying to either overcome or you're trying to, I don't even know, what do you do?
Identify and disrupt. So twofold. I'm going to put this in the chat. If you go to jencokenquiz.com, that will lead you to a quiz on imposter syndrome, which will also lead you to, and as I'm saying this, I'm like, dang it, I got to update the Udemy code. But I have a course on Udemy that when you take the quiz, you get it for free. So I probably have to, it's like $23, but still, I'll totally
Yeah.
offer it to people for free. Just give me a minute when we hang up so I can go update the code. But watch, I do a whole hour-long webinar in this. And specifically, what you got to, the thing to do is to identify your defining moment. Because what I've come to, I realized for myself, and this is what turned it around for me, Ashley, and everyone else, each one of us has a moment from when we were young, not traumatic, not dramatic, something completely innocuous, something that happens between the age of like 0 and 12 that's related to feeling like we don't belong or our relationship to authority. Something happens and the brain goes, because it has an unwanted emotion, embarrassment, dismay, disappointing your parent. And then because the brain has to survive, it comes up with a way to survive that. Case in point, client who she was a perfectionist. She was a COO, CFO of an organization. And that's a good thing to be. That's a
Totally.
really good thing to be, right? Because you got to get
Yes.
the numbers right. You got to, as an OBM, you better get it right. That's really important that you get it right for your clients. However, when she put that together, oh, and by the way, being managed by her was a nightmare because such a perfectionist, she expected it not only of herself, but everyone else. And people couldn't live up to her expectations. So she came to me for coaching. And what we identified when she was like 9, she brought home a C. She was a straight A student. She brought home a C, and her dad was like, "Whoa, what's up with this C?" And she, 9-year-old, your dad's gruff with you, embarrassed, like, afraid. And, "Oh, dad, it's average. It's okay. Give me 1,500 words on average." Right? In that moment.
Do you live in my home?
I
Were you watching?
was, that bear that you got that has the camera? I'm actually inside that bear, actually, on your shelf. That's correct. I see everything.
Oh, so good.
But in that moment, so unwanted emotion combined with keeping the self safe, the brain says, I don't want to do that again. So what she came up with is, I got to get it right. That's what a 9-year-old would say. I got to get it right. Straight A student after that. Straight A, got to get it right. Now, nothing wrong with trying to get it right. Unless you're unless you're in a 50, 40, 30-year-old woman's body and your 9-year-old is running the show. Right? And the problem is, it's almost like you're driving a car with drive and reverse, and that's it. You don't have a choice about getting it right. You're at the effect of a brain pattern that you put together when you're 9. You don't realize the car can go right, the car can go left, and we can do donuts in the parking lot. There's a whole bunch of life that isn't available to you. So when we identify that defining moment, then we're identifying and disrupting that brain pattern for the first time. Then we can start to watch it in action and ask ourselves every time, well, if I wasn't busy trying to get it right, who would I be in this moment in time? And what she came up with that really inspired her was just being curious, asking open-ended questions. And that's what you began to practice. And it really is moment by moment. It's, you identify it because you're observing metacognition. You're thinking about the thinking, identifying your thoughts as thoughts. And then, okay, well, if I wasn't busy trying to get it right, if I wasn't busy being driven, if I wasn't busy, not wanting to do things with my peers because they laughed at me and only dealing with the teacher, who would I be? Who would I be in this moment? And there's a world, we're human beings, not human doings. So there's a world of infinite possibilities available to us to express ourselves in ways we've never even touched once we identify that brain pattern.
Man, now you saying like, who would I be? I'm sure this is just showing my own trauma, but that sounds terrifying asking myself that. Like if I
Why?
because could that mean that right now I am not my best self?
Mm.
Am And if I'm not my best self, what untapped potential do I have hiding in me? And what would that mean for myself, my business, my family, like my daughter, like it, and then it spirals. Like I
Yeah.
can see how that feels very overwhelming. Do you ever hear
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So what does best mean to you?
Great question.
That's like,
Great question.
because as far as I can tell, we are constantly evolving. You're not the same person you were before you had your kids.
No
You have
way.
2 kids, right? You have 2
Just
kids?
just one.
1, but you're not the same person you were before you got married. You're not the same person before you adopted a pet, if you have a pet. You're not the same person that you were yesterday. How can we embrace the opportunity we have to express and let go of best, let go of balanced, let go of perfection? Because you know what? Balance doesn't exist. People talk to me, I mean, especially with the women that I coach in
Yeah.
STEM and these male dominated spaces. There's so many pressures put on us to be a good daughter, a good wife, a good partner, show up at work, show up at home. If you're dating like I am, to put your best foot forward. Oh, and we put so much pressure on ourselves, as if there's a day when all the dishes are done, all the laundry's put away, including the last load that's been in the dryer since you did the first load, because that's me, the first load of wash. You're in love with every inch of your body till your left, from your left saggy boob to your right saggy, lid, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's happy. You and your partner are in love. Blah. We think there's someday we're going to get there, but someday isn't a day of the week, number one. Okay. And number two, if
Write that
everything
one
was
down.
balanced, what is this? Boo. You're flatlining, baby. You're dead. Dead.
I
Dead. Then you can
love
stop trying
this.
to be your best self.
I mean, you're so right. Like, you're right. Balance, perfection, not like all of this, not having imposter syndrome. You're right. You would be dead if none of that existed. I have never once thought about it like that. I've never once.
Look, being a great leader is about continuous self-discovery.
Totally.
Just like when Michelangelo was asked, "How did you carve David?" Arguably the most famous piece of marble of all time. You know what he said? He said, "I carved away everything that wasn't David until David emerged." That is our job, to carve away everything that isn't us so that we continuously emerge, because we're not a piece of marble. There's not a place to get to. But your best self today is your best self today, Ashley, and your best self tomorrow is going to be your best self tomorrow. And guess what? If you reflect like we do and obsess on all the crap that went wrong that day, instead of doing that, how about write down all the things that went well and the things that were positive? But maybe there is an opportunity to say, you know what? I didn't handle that interaction in the most gracious way, or the most positive way that I would have wanted to handle it. So let me reflect on that. Who was I being? Was I being
Mhm.
in scarcity? Was I being afraid? Was I being someone who's trying to convince someone to buy something from me? Or was I listening for value and listening for the gold and being curious and being inquisitive? Then you can work on that the next day.
So true. This is perfect. So, again, I was saying at the beginning that Jen and I are in a networking group, and I was really vulnerable yesterday in that group, just being like, "Look, y'all, I blew it. I had a sales call, and it was terrible. I went straight into, and everyone in the audience is going to know what I mean here, but I went straight into selling the boat, all the different features in the boat, not the vacation where they can go, right? We talk about that all the time. And I was just vulnerable. And well, first, the amount of grace and hey, me too, and don't worry about it. And it happens to the best of us that I got was so helpful. But just getting it off my chest and being like, all right, and to your point, reflecting. What did I do? Got it. Okay, next time we get back to the vacation. We get
Yep.
back to listening for value. We get back to being curious. We get back to to the permission that we are not everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay.
And that's okay. And what you're pointing to, it's a tool that I use with every client. I call it one of two things: what, so what, now what? Or just separate fact from fiction. That's the easy one. When you're upset like that, you said, I did something terrible. No, you didn't. Terrible is your
Right.
story about it. Maybe that's the way you felt. I get it.
You're
But if
right.
you wrote it down, you write down all the thing that you're upset about, who's to blame, why it happened, you're a terrible person, you're never going to have another good sales call again, you did exactly what you tell your people not to do, and how do you lead this group? I can only imagine the spiral that your brain went down, right? Because my
Yeah.
brain would go there too. I'm never going to, I'm going to go to hell in a
It could have
handbasket.
been a huge opportunity, and they're going to tell everyone, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
All
Well,
the things. All
that's
the
my impression
things.
of Cartman from South Park.
Yeah.
Right? So if you write down everything you're upset about, the whole shebangy, and then just stop for a minute and go back and circle the facts, I promise you, you'll find three. You, the client, and maybe some things you said. And the result was this client didn't buy. Period. It's not terrible. It's not horrible. You're not doomed. Said another way, what? What happened? That's what happened. You look at the facts. That's what happened. Okay, so what? Now
Right.
what? Like, if we can just get to the so what of just let it go, man.
Totally.
Let it
Totally.
go. Why you drag look, shoes I'm bringing to Goodwill because they don't fit my feet anymore and they're out of fashion. Why would I be dragging around other stuff with me when I clean out my closet? And I'm not maybe someone's a hoarder on here. I don't know, but we get rid of shit all the time. So why are we dragging around all those negative thoughts? That's just silliness because we're human. That's why we're people and we get people-y sometimes. It's just our humanity. Okay, you made a mistake. You didn't even make a mistake because that's a comparison. You didn't operate from a place of that you would have wanted to. You
Yeah.
weren't being who you know yourself to be.
Right.
Great. Go back to that person as someone suggested in that post because I read it and say, "Hey, I screwed up. I was trying to get you to buy. I'm really sorry. Would you be willing to get on a call with me so I can hear what you need and see if I'm a fit or not? And if not, I got lots of people on my network and I'll completely put you in touch with the right person." That would be amazing. I'd be like, I didn't think I wanted to buy from her, but now I do because she's got the guts to say that to me. Holy moly. You mean she's authentic? And by the way, this whole business that people are talking about, authentic leadership, it's such a buzzword, but guess what? It's right on. And here's the thing to know about that word authenticity. It's something I'm thinking about and playing with as I prep for my next book that'll be out next year. The root word of authenticity, AUTH, is also the root word of authority and author. It's a Greek word meaning self.
Hmm.
So when we're talking about being authentic, we're talking about being ourselves. But the question, as you said, is, well, who am I? And that's a question you can engage in for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. And I want to underscore something that you said because I loved that piece of advice. And I think that we can all relate to screwing up that sales call or screwing up that presentation or screwing up the whatever. And again, screwing up is
A
not even
story.
accurate.
Right.
Not
It's our post-game analysis,
thank you. Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes. I love the idea of going back to them and being like, look, that wasn't me. Let's do it
I
again.
screwed up. You could just even say, look, I didn't get it right. That wasn't me. Like you said. What were you going to say? I totally interrupted you. I got excited. Go ahead.
Well, uh, like we said at the very beginning, most of the women who are in our community, this is the first time that they have ever needed to sell themselves. And it is scary and it is vulnerable. And like, let's be honest, it took me 5 years of building Prowess Project before I felt semi-confident in a sales conversation. 5 years. And so the fact that again, and I know this sounds weird saying, but like more and more people are giving permission to be human and saying, look, stop, like, Let me do this
Just be
again.
you, boo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good what you said because that's truly why I got in why I was dealing with imposter syndrome. I was a coach for a internationally known personal growth and development company for years, for 18 years. And when as a volunteer, by the way, while I was doing politics, but if I look at my career, it was always about pushing somebody else forward. And what I just and when it came to me speaking about myself and selling myself, like choking, lack of confidence. And so what I discovered, my defining moment, I was 6 years old, and me and my best friend had a crush on the same boy at school. And we decided in the dead of winter in Michigan, while we were outside on the playground, we were going to chase him around the schoolyard and both try to kiss him and see who he would kiss. And Michelle puckered up and he kissed her, and I puckered up and he went, ew. Heartbreak at 6. And in that moment, everyone in the schoolyard was watching us. That's how it felt. And everybody laughed. And I was embarrassed. And I said to myself, I'm never going to do that again, meaning I'm never going to put myself out there again. I'll be the funny sidekick, AKA comedian, AKA pushing everybody else's agenda forward. When I discovered that, when I was able to interrupt that brain pattern, who I invented myself to be was being the one. I don't know what that means, but it totally inspired me, and that's okay. It was being the one. And still to this day, I am really confident in almost every aspect of my business, but there's still one aspect, which is the group program that I offer, that I'm not as confident in talking about it. I'm sorting that out right now because we're really focused on scaling that, because my one-on-one time is like this year I'm completely booked, and it's great, but it's also, I don't want to say depleting. It's a lot. It's a lot for
Yeah.
me energetically. And I love one-to-many. I love group. I love community. I love building support and seeing women support each other. So it's incredibly important to me to impact more people and make a bigger difference. So this is my next level for imposter syndrome, is being able to articulate the value that everybody says they get out of the program. And I'm like, really? It's so weird, Ashley. Yeah, but I know what people get when they work with me. But really, that's really just from so bizarre that I'm questioning and doubting the people that have given me amazing testimonials. But I'm telling one on myself here and being vulnerable, because when left to my own devices, I'm like, why? I don't.
Well, tell us, who is your ideal client for your group program, and what value do you offer?
I love that you're
Little
putting me on the
test.
spot right now. So it is geared for what I usually say when women come to me and want coaching. I say, are you looking for a confidant? Because sometimes people are, because they want to talk through really tricky business relationships and conversations to give feedback. And they don't, most people are elevated and never trained. So I help them understand really great one-on-one conversations and one-on-one meetings, and how to really elicit the best in their team so they become the kind of leader people naturally want to follow, but also can say they did it themselves. So there's no personality in that. So I asked that question, do you want a confidant, or are you looking for community? And so the ideal client is either a woman in corporate or a woman entrepreneur that is looking for a community of other women to be able to hold her to account for her vision, for the reason she was put on this planet, to make sure that her feet are held to the fire for the value that she brings and the values that energize her and the way she brings that energy and the plan she's got to put it together. Because of my background in politics, it's very action oriented. I do a retreat twice a year that's coming up in June, actually. And that's kind of I don't do a launch because I don't like that energy, but I do it's kind of a soft launch. So people
Sure.
come, my own clients get a seat at the retreat, and I open it up to others. And at that retreat, let me back up. There's the inner game of leadership and the outer game of leadership. And the inner game of leadership is about being your own beloved, not relying on anyone else. And part of that is disrupting imposter syndrome. And part of that is figuring out what's my purpose and why am I here? And they do that work and then come to the retreat to dial that in, but walk away with a 6-month plan to take it all and put it into action and make a difference where they want to make a difference.
So tell us, Jen, I want to hear a success story of yours. I want to hear like what, and obviously general, like where did someone come to you and where are they now?
Oh, wow. So good. So I have one client that I've been working with for 3 years now. She came to me initially after having cared for 2 parents who had both dealt with, I think, dementia,
Oh,
as well as her husband's parents. So she was CEO of a company and doing that at the same time. And she
oh,
was yeah, she didn't know who she was anymore. She didn't even know what fun was anymore. She didn't know what she was passionate about. And this people can probably identify with this, that she was living her life so much for all the people around her, which we're trained to do as women. Um, and she was kind of, I don't know who I am. So we started off coaching one-on-one. Then I went to start coaching her COO, then her CFO, and now her whole team, because in 60 years of their existence, they've never done leadership training. It's a rural company where there's not many businesses in the area. So you just kind of get in and you rise up through the ranks. And she started out stuffing money into envelopes. And the way her team, everybody has let down their walls. They're not taking things personally anymore. They really are looking at how do we empower one another. We dug in last quarterly, we did into their marketing book. How many companies do marketing books or, pay someone a lot of money for marketing and it sits on a shelf? They
right.
had not looked at how to integrate it into their day to day. So we did that. I did all kinds of tools with them to help them lead from their heart and listen for the gold from their team members. And the complaints they used to have disappeared, even about each other have disappeared. They're non existent. And Cheryl is now, oh, I shouldn't have said her name, but she's now going through a major health crisis. But the beauty of it is that she knows her team is going to carry the ball forward with confidence. And they didn't have that before they started working with me.
I can only imagine that peace of mind and confidence that she must be feeling. You are just such a like saint. That is it's so important, and I think we forget that. And what I love about what you described, and you this has been a theme throughout. There is a lot of jargon out there. Authenticity, the broy marketer, all of those different things, but it feels different with you.
Mm,
I feel like you have not just tried on that hat for size and like see what it's like for your audience to hear it. You have embodied it. You've done the work. You're speaking from not only experience but also studying it. And I think that's what makes you so brilliant and gives all of your clients such the transition or transformation, I should say, that they're seeing.
yeah.
Oh,
If I don't go first, I'm a fraud. If I don't push my ass through the eye of a needle so much that it like hurts, I've been that way my entire I am an open book about my life and my trials. And thank you, by the way. I should thank you for saying that. That really saint. My parents would probably disagree. But the rest, thank you. I really appreciate that. Felt really good to hear that. And it filled my heart. And I think one of you got to go first. My life's always been an open book. I share about my mistakes, my foibles. And when I think about vision, and people talk about vision all the freaking time, and the vision, and your values, and your mission. Blah, blah, blah. For me, what it's about is what's your soul's purpose on this planet. And your vision you're never going to achieve it in this lifetime, but it is what your life is for. And if you can have a vision that big, that's bigger than the crap between your ears, that will get you out of bed even on the worst mornings. And it has gotten me out of bed on the worst mornings. My vision is a world of people at home with themselves, where each and every human is honored, is known, and appreciated for their unique contribution. And that world of people at home with themselves, I created after 9/11. Because I was about to go to the front of the room to lead a course for 150 people. And my coach said to me, like, first of all, I couldn't get back in time the course was supposed to be September 12th. And I was stuck in Maine. I just done a charity bike ride from Montreal to Portland, Maine, and we couldn't get out. We eventually had to like drive through the night. So some other dude led it and tried to lead the content.
and
I was like, oh my God, all you needed to do was listen. In DC, where the plane went through the Pentagon. We had people in that seminar who we lost. We had people in that seminar who they lost coworkers. Like, how are you going to try to, I still want to find that guy and like squeeze this brain out of his head like a zit. What are you doing? So and it was a good question from my coach. Like, what am I doing? And I said, I've been thinking a lot about it, and I don't condone what happened at all. And we're so much facing very similar things in our day right now. And as a Jew, it's been really difficult for me to deal with everything that's going on. But I said, I'm going to take the case those hijackers didn't feel heard. But now we're listening. And unfortunately, we reacted with violence. I don't want to get political on it, but that was my stand. A world of people that are at home with themselves that can hear each other. And we don't have to fight about differences of opinion. We can honor one another for our opinions. And that's where I stood. And that night, all I did was listen. That's all I did was listen, so that people could just share their grief and their sadness and we don't know what's happening next. So that's a cornerstone of everything I do with my clients, my workbook, my retreat, you got to start with a vision. And I had one woman who came and she said to me, she said, I lost my sparkle. That's why she was coming. And as we worked on her vision, she said, my vision is a world of people who, which is the phrase I always start with. And I said, start with that phrase, whatever comes out of your mouth. And she kept having these really like long, blah, 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 blah. Because mine is a world of people at home with themselves. Boom. We can, period, full stop. And she finally looked at me. She goes, my vision's a world of people who are happy. And she paused. She said, can it be that simple? I said, yeah. I said, our vision always relates back to when we were 6, when anything was possible. And then we grew up and became really jaded. So how do we get returned to that childlike innocence for what we're put on the earth for and live our lives for? Because that's going to get you out of bed the next day, Ashley. The work you do to match OBMs with CEOs and have people see the brilliance of that partnership where everybody shines. That's what you were put on the earth for. Is like, I don't know how you would say, but that's what everybody shines. It's really that simple. Did you shine on that call? No. Okay, good. Got a little tarnished. Great. Polish it off. Go back. Redo.
Oh man, yeah. Everyone shines. I love that. That's so true. That's so true. Wow. And having a 2-year-old daughter now, I've been thinking about that all the time. Like, what can I do as a mom to support her so that she doesn't feel like she needs to grow up, AKA lose her sparkle?
Yeah.
Like become jaded.
Yeah.
Like I think about that all the time. And I'm trying to lead the way of showing like, hey, look, you can create your vision and it takes sacrifice. Or I don't know if that's the right word, but it takes choices.
Well, vision is mission takes sacrifices and choices, because your mission, this is the way I define it. Your mission's about me mission. So your expression in the world of everybody shines is you having prowess. And that has choices and that has sacrifices, et cetera. But the vision's the vision. That's the way I frame it. I don't know if that's helpful.
No, that's really, really helpful. We talk a lot about in our course, like vision, mission, values, but I haven't had anyone explain it to me like that. And I really like it. And it's very tangible.
Yeah. So like in a succinct way, your vision is the way you want to see the world. Your mission is mission, expression of that. And your values are your ways of being that you want to bring into existence to fulfill that mission and values. They all hang off one another. And the values are energies. It's, when you're thinking about your values, do you feel it in your body? Do you feel inspired? Do you feel like life has been breathed into you? The values work that most coaches do never made sense to me, because then I feel like we're trying to get somewhere or we're trying to say what we already are. I'm like, no, it's ways of being. Be joyful. That could be a value. You're just going to practice being joyful. And it's a practice when you're bringing those values into existence. That's the way I approach it. I totally cut you off like multiple times, and I'm really
No,
sorry.
no. I love it. And it's so helpful again, because what we've noticed about our community is it is oftentimes a lot of ex corporate who've had that same toxic, well, a similar probably experience that you had or that you
Yep.
witnessed.
Yep.
And so, what I hope that we are creating is this home where they can utilize all of their, tech, and they can utilize all of their ops brain, which I do not have, and I greatly appreciate.
I don't either. I don't. I don't
Don't
have
have
it.
it. Don't have it.
No.
Give me a spreadsheet and I will run the opposite direction. Um, and I want them to know, like, hey, yes, I can be zeros and ones in one side of my brain, and I can be wholehearted, empathetic, joyful, all the other things that I naturally am too. Both can exist
Yeah.
in
And
the,
you
in
go
yeah,
ahead.
in this life that they are building for themselves, in this career that they are building for themselves, with this business that they're building for themselves. It's just, you can have both.
Yeah. And intuitively, the word that keeps coming up for me around you, and since the moment I met you, was shine, 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 shine. You're creating a community where people can shine. You make people shiny. You give space for people to be shiny, to be all of themselves, but that includes you. And I'm not, you can, usually I don't give people something like that, but I just like my guys are like, tell her shine right now or stop talking. So I had to.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate that. You're going to see on my website tomorrow, Prowess Project, where everyone shines.
Why not?
Why not? I know.
I mean, I'm not telling you to change your marketing because, but take it or leave it. You can leave it. It's fine with me. It's okay.
But it is what we do. It is what we do. Jen, thank you so much. I know we're over. I am forever grateful for this time. It was so beyond imposter syndrome and was, gosh, was a live therapy session for me, or coaching session for me.
Coaching session. Yeah. Not a therapist, but yeah. I'm telling you, I was not having a good day today because of everything that's happening. I really woke up. I'm going to get choked up about it in a really bad place this morning. And it took me something to like be on here. And I'm like, gave Ashley my word. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be. So this conversation breathed life into me. So thank you.
Jen, thank you.
Because I got to be me and you got to be you. We got to be who we are in this conversation. And I so appreciate the space that you created with your community to allow me to show up and shine.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Y'all, I so appreciate you being here with Jen and myself today. I'm putting into the chat her different links if you want to reach out to her. Also, definitely check out that quiz. I have not done that yet, but I'm going to. Because
Oh yeah, that reminds me to go in and update the code. So thanks for that. Yeah.
I'm so grateful, Jen. This has been absolutely wonderful. Y'all follow Jen, check out everything that she offers. I thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me here, and thanks for everybody listening. And I see Natalie is the one who's like, let me put everything in the chat. So thanks, Natalie, for capturing all that. Because
Yes,
I talk fast, and she was probably like, ah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, y'all. I will see you next week. Just as a reminder, if you do want to rewatch this, watch all your time on your own time, speed it up, etc., it's all on YouTube. So you will be able to check it out there, replay and everything. Jen, again, thank you. And I will see all of you back this time next week. We are talking about intuitive leadership.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Bye, everyone.